Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a little kill count on a film known as Captain America: The First Avenger, which released back in 2011. This film is the 5th entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and is directed by Joe Johnston, famous for directing films like the original Jumanji, October Sky, and of course, Jurassic Park 3. While many consider this to be one of the weaker entries in the MCU, I personally enjoy this film a lot. It's a film that's just so over the top. It mixes World War II with superhero and space stuff, yet somehow the film manages to have a strong emotional core to it. The film has one of my favorite endings in the entire franchise that just feels so genuine and sets up Captain America's arc perfectly. But we'll get to that when we get to that. So let's just jump right in and look at the film itself. Just before we get into the film, sorry, me from the future is gonna interrupt the video for a quick second. But I just wanted to say that this video and this channel is in no way affiliated with Dead Meat. This video is inspired by their content. I'm a huge fan of them, and I kind of wanted to just put like my own spin on what they do. And if you guys don't watch the YouTube channel Dead Meat and you're a fan of horror movies, like, what are you doing? They do great work over there. They talk about horror films. They talk about the behind the scenes of how they were made. They of course, they count kills and do all of that fun stuff. They seem like really great people. And if you love, learning about films, or if you love horror movies or learning about how films are made, behind the scenes stuff, then you guys should 100% check their channel out. They make amazing stuff over there, as I keep saying. But yeah, I just wanted to just get that out of the way, that I'm not claiming this idea as my own or anything like that. But yeah, with all of that out of the way, we can just get right on into the film itself. So enjoy. The film opens in the Arctic, where a group of scientists have discovered something that's crashed into the snow. But, it's okay though, they probably don't need any equipment. A small crane should do.
I don't think you quite understand. You guys are gonna need one hell of a crane!
Oh, alright, I guess not. I just want to say real quick that I love the visual effects in this sequence. A lot of people rag on Marvel's CGI today, but back then, it looked incredible. All of their visual effects just look so good. I just can't help but be amazed by just how impressive this laser looks right here. It's incredible, dude. Inside, the scientists discover the frozen shield of someone who may or may not be important. I have no idea. Anyway, this guy's rescue is cut short when we're transported back in time to the height of World War II. Why did I sound excited when I said that? We're in Norway now, which is clearly the best place to be during World War II. Here we follow a church keeper played by famous English actor David Bradley, who most of you know as Professor Filch from the Harry Potter series, or this guy from Game of Thrones. A show that I still have not yet finished, and me saying this on the internet will probably get me roasted by a small handful of you. A young boy comes running in when suddenly the world begins to shake. And hey, this moment even results in our first kill, the young church boy who was crushed to death by the rubble. The intruders are none other than Hydra, the Nazi weapon division. They start infiltrating the church and begin tearing everything apart, desperate to find something until... What an insane reveal. Casting our main villain in silhouette to give him this serious and intimidating vibe. It's an incredible visual. And speaking of incredible, this is Johann Schmidt, played by Hugo Weaving. He reveals that he's looking for a blue box that he calls the Tesseract, and he finds his treasure inside a painting of Yggdrasil. I love the sound design for the Tesseract. It just has this unnatural roar to it that really makes it stand out amongst the World War II aesthetic. But it's not too long after when we get our second kill when Schmidt opens fire on our poor church keeper. He also gives the order to open fire on the rest of the town, but I'm not gonna guess how many people died in that. How am I supposed to know? I'm only counting things that I can see on screen. Afterwards, we're transported to New York, where a bunch of young men are gearing up to join the war, including the one and only Captain This is Chris Evans, but it's also not. Chris Evans worked out 3 months before shooting so that he could get in shape for the role. But in turn, that made it impossible for him to shoot the skinnier version of Steve Rogers.
We discussed all sorts of things. Are they different actors? No. Well, do you do a Tom Hanks Castaway thing? Well, our schedule wouldn't allow time for Chris to get that skinny and bulk back up again. So we started looking at a number of effects processes to get it done.
This smaller body is played by theater actor Leander Deeney, and they pretty much just put Chris Evans's face over his.
So we shot the scene 2 different ways, and then we took Chris's head and we placed Chris's head onto the Leander body. Here we have an example of him where we've actually just literally taken his whole face and his body, his shoulders, his neck, and we've just thinned him down.
It's just such an insane effect that works so perfectly. It just looks so real in the final product, even if you know how they did it. Steve Rogers finally gets called up. Little Steve Rogers, with all of his ailments, is also immediately denied from joining.
Is there anything you can do?
I'm doing it. I'm saving your life.
He decides to cure his sadness by going to the movies. Honestly, dude, same. And here, Steve Rogers teaches us how to be a good audience member.
Hey, just start the cartoon!
Hey, you want to shut up?
Together with Allied forces, we'll face any threat, no matter the size.
By the way, I've always loved that editing choice. It's just such a smart cut.
You just don't know when to give up, do you?
I can do this all day.
Also, prepare to hear that line a lot throughout the MCU. The fight is ended by Bucky, who is Steve Rogers' best friend. He's got orders to join the 107th, but hey, that's not important right now. What is important is that the two decide to drown out their sorrows by going on a double date to the Stark Expo. But it's not run by good old Tony Stark. His dad is the genius inventor in town. Oh, maybe he's not a genius, I'm sorry. You know, I've always liked the inclusion of Howard Stark in this film. It immediately links the characters of Steve and Tony, and it just sets up their rivalry just from the get-go. Steve isn't so much into the tech or the woman and sneaks off to try and get another shot at enlisting in the war, much to the displeasure of Bucky.
Bucky, come on, there are men laying down their lives. I got no right to do any less than them. That's what you don't understand. This isn't about me.
Right. Because you got nothing to prove.
Steve Rogers is immediately established as being a quote-unquote good guy. Unlike the rest of the heroes in the MCU until this point, Rogers feels the most like a true superhero in his morals and his ideals. Steve goes in and tries to enlist when his recruitment attempt is interrupted by none other than Stanley Tucci as Dr. Abraham Erskine. But it would have been so much better if it was just Stanley Tucci playing himself. And it turns out the doctor overheard Bucky and Steve's argument from earlier and was just really impressed by his character. Dr. Erskine allows Rogers a chance to enlist. Now, he can finally join the war. At boot camp, Rogers meets MI6 agent Peggy Carter, played by Haley Atwell, and Colonel Phillips, played by Tommy Lee Jones. During their training, Rogers is shown to be unable to do much regarding the physical side of things, much to the disappointment of Phillips.
Look at that. He's making me cry.
However, Rogers' own intelligence and selflessness really begins to win the Colonel over.
Get away! Get back!
He's still skinny.
It's been decided that Rogers will be the test subject for a new breed of super soldiers, in which he will need to undergo a procedure. The night before said procedure, Dr. Erskine pays a visit to Rogers. He reveals something to him. Schmidt was actually the first and original super soldier. But hey, he at least reassures him that the same thing probably won't happen to him.
This is why you were chosen. Because a strong man who has known power all his life may lose respect for that power. But a weak man knows the value of strength and knows compassion.
Meanwhile, in a secret lair, Schmidt and his assistant Arnim Zola, played by Toby Jones, have managed to harness the power of the Tesseract to create weapons. Schmidt has discovered Erskine's plans to create a new super soldier and sends an assassin to their location. Back in New York, Rogers is being transported to a super secret facility where he will undergo his procedure. In the car, Rogers and Peggy have a little talk.
You must have danced.
Well, asking a woman to dance always seems so terrifying. And the past few years just didn't seem to matter that much. Figured I'd wait.
For what?
Right partner.
I've always loved their chemistry together, it just feels so natural. At the facility, which is hidden underneath an old antique store, Rogers enters. I love the cut from Rogers to the people below. It just really gives the sense that the whole world is watching this moment. Rogers gets loaded into the machine and we enter a very intense scene. Him being injected with the serum isn't the end of the procedure, however. He's gotta be hit with something called quote-unquote Vita rays, which is some sort of electromagnetic radiation that's used specifically within the Marvel Universe to activate the properties of the super soldier serum, and from what I can tell, it isn't an actual thing in real life. But whatever, he needs it to have the superpowers, that's what's important here. But the man himself powers through until... everything shuts off. Everything's quiet. Until... like I mentioned earlier, Chris Evans worked out for 3 months before shooting to get into shape for this role. But he wasn't always set on joining the MCU. Chris Evans was initially hesitant to take on the role of Captain America.
The way my career has gone so far, most careers, movies are one at a time. And I sometimes struggle with loss of anonymity. I like my privacy. Yeah. You know, it's just kind of like, well, if all of a sudden I can't handle what this movie brings, too bad.
It was ultimately his family that motivated him to take on the role, and boy did it pay off. On top of, you know, just all the money he made, just like look at him, bro. He's stunning, okay? Like I have no shame in saying that, okay? Even Peggy has to get in on the action in a little improvised moment by Haley Atwell herself.
I couldn't quite help myself during the scene. It was the first time I saw him, and it was the first time I was that close, so I just kind of touched them gently.
The test was clearly a success, but the celebration is cut short when the assassin finally reveals himself and sets off a bomb. In the madness, 2 military officers are shot along with Dr. Erskine himself. He escapes upstairs and only Peggy follows him. In this room full of military officers, not a single other person thinks to pursue him. This is not a nitpick, I just think it's funny. Rogers goes over to Erskine, who, in his final moments, reminds Rogers who he is. Upstairs, the assassin kills the shop owner. Oh no, dude. Dude. He barrels outside and rushes to a getaway car. However, he then gets into a firefight with 2 US soldiers. A Hydra agent tries to join in, but gets shot instantly. The assassin ducks into his getaway car and blasts the 2 soldiers. It seems like he's gonna get away, until Peggy shows up, and with some badass aim, manages to kill the getaway driver. The assassin easily steals his taxi cab because the driver wasn't paying attention, and pulls a quick little U-turn, heading right back towards Agent Carter. And here she is, lining up her shot. It seems like she'll have another badass moment when... Steve pursues the taxi on foot and begins to learn about his newfound powers. I love that he kind of sucks, you know, in this moment, like he's stumbling and tripping and falling. It's a fun way to show how he has to adapt to his new skill set. He's not perfect at it off the bat. Steve catches up to the taxi and, hey, come, this is why you don't shoot people and drive. In this lethal car crash, the assassin exits perfectly fine. We get another instance of shield shadowing before the assassin takes a kid hostage and runs off. Steve pursues him and it appears that the assassin's gonna kill the kid. What the fuck? Oh, okay, he's out of bullets. Okay, let's drown him instead. That's more child friendly, yeah. Steve rushes to save the kid, but...
Go get him! I can swim!
The assassin enters his high-tech Hydra submarine, but Rogers is able to easily catch up to him and drag his ass back up onto the surface.
Who the hell are you? The first of many. Cut off one head. 2 more shall take its place. Hail Hydra!
And just like that, the assassin is killed off. and we, along with Rogers, learn more about the notorious Hydra, which means it's time for us to learn even more about Hydra. We're treated to their Death Star looking hallways as Schmidt leads some Nazi officers around to show them their research on the Tesseract, and here we get a very important name drop.
The Red Skull has been indulged long enough.
Suddenly, the entire vibe of the scene changes. So in return, Schmidt kills everyone else in this room. They're all dead. Back with our heroes, Rogers learns that without Dr. Erskine, he will be the only super soldier for a long time. Not only that, but the US is also going to be taking the fight directly to Hydra itself. Rogers wants in, but Colonel Phillips is not having it.
I asked for an army and all I got was you. You are not enough.
This is when a US senator swoops in and gives him an offer he can't refuse.
Son, do you want to serve your country on the most important battlefield of the war?
Sir, that's all I want.
But it might not be what he had in mind. Rogers is finally given the title of Captain America and dons the classic Captain America uniform in a big show to sell some war bonds. Fun fact, Captain America the character was created to be a foil to Hitler himself. This is something explained here by Captain America co-creator Joe Simon.
So I said, maybe that's the answer, you know, get yourself a good villain and then get a foil for the villain. And so Adolf Hitler was there. So I figured, well, he's a live one on his own brutal way.
This comes full circle in this film with this little moment here, even if he doesn't actually, get to punch the real Hitler, unfortunately. This tour sends Captain America all across the United States, and he becomes a huge public figure. He even makes movies now. This all comes to a halt when he actually has to perform in front of a real group of soldiers.
How many of you are ready to help me sock old Adolf on the job?
He ends up getting booed off stage. Here, Carter and Rogers reunite. They have a heart-to-heart, and Rogers vents his frustrations over his current situation.
Phillips would have had me stuck in a lab.
And these are your only two options. A lab rat or a dancing monkey. You were meant for more than this, you know.
Their conversation is cut short when injured soldiers arrive, and Rogers learns something that terrifies him to his core.
Your audience contained what was left of the 107th. The rest were killed or captured.
The 107th?
In a hurry, Rogers rushes back to have a conversation with Colonel Phillips to check to see if Bucky has returned from the battle.
I have signed more of these condolence letters today than I would care to count. But the name does sound familiar. I'm sorry.
In disbelief, Rogers wants to lead another attack on Hydra, but that plan is shot down almost instantly. Rogers dons the Captain America suit and recruits Stark and Carter to drop him off behind enemy lines. On the flight down, Captain America learns that there might be something going on between Carter and Stark.
Thought we could stop off in Lucerne for a late night fondue.
So are you two? Do you... fondue?
Realizing this is an awkward conversation that no one wants to have, Carter ignores him and gets right back to business. Suddenly, the plane starts getting shot at. Rogers, wanting to keep his friends safe, jumps out of the plane and parachutes his way down. Here, we learn that Hydra has been keeping a bunch of US soldiers hostage. I personally don't like this choice. I think it's more powerful if we learn that there's soldiers still alive when Rogers finds them. By revealing them now, I actually feel like the tension is lost in this scene. It's no longer a question if what Rogers is doing is in vain. We know that there's prisoners, so thus the mystery of the situation is just lost entirely. And I'm not saying they would have done that in a movie like this, okay? Like, clearly they weren't going in that direction, but it would have still been nice to have that tension here. But anyway, Rogers sneaks onto a truck to enter Hydra's base and throws these two guys out. After this wave of trucks have entered the base, a Hydra agent checks the truck Rogers hid in, only to get hit by his shield in the film's first shield attack. I'm also gonna say, this is probably dead. Given how far he flew back and Captain America's strength, I would say that it is reasonable to assume that this man is now dead, if not in a coma. Anyway, Rogers begins to sneak around the base and eventually finds his way inside the base itself. He tricks a guard to opening the door for him and knocks him out in record speed. Rogers sneaks around the base and discovers some of Hydra's weapons that they've just been leaving out, and he steals some of it, because why wouldn't he? Afterwards, Rogers knocks out this guy in plain view of the captured soldiers, and steals his keys before freeing the prisoners below. However, Bucky is nowhere to be found.
You know what you're doing?
Yeah. I've knocked out Adolf Hitler over 200 times.
On the screen, there is chaos. The soldiers barrel out of the base and oh my god. We counted 29 deaths in this sequence. This includes Hydra and US soldiers who all get shot, blown up, or disintegrated by the Tesseract guns. We cut back to this moment a few times, but I'm going to include all of it here just out of simplicity. It's such a chaotic scene that I think works really well. It really feels like the US soldiers are desperate and willing to do anything to escape. It's fantastic. Realizing that the base has been compromised, Schmidt activates the base's self-destruct sequence, putting the scene on a timer. Anyway, Zola begins to pack up some of his research and we learn that there's more Hydra bases all around the globe. Captain America discovers the secret lab under the base and finds Bucky Barnes, who might have been experimented on, I don't know. Anyways, Rogers sets him free and they have a quick little moment together.
I thought you were dead.
I thought you were smaller.
Rogers also notices a map of the marked Hydra bases. Steve Rogers will remember that. Time has finally run out, however, and the base begins to blow up. Rogers and Bucky run around looking for a way out, only to be faced head-to-head with the man himself. Their fight is cut short, however, as Zola separates the two. It's at this moment where Schmidt reveals who he really is. The Red Skull design looks great, and hey, most of it is practical. You know, besides the whole nose thing. It looks incredible and holds up really well thanks to the brilliant work done by prosthetics designer David White.
There was a battle with materials on this one because we wanted to make it practical, but it had to kind of be slightly off-worldly in a way. So we used silicon. It's an unusual material for this kind of makeup because you can't kind of figure out what it is because it has this luminosity to it. You put him near a light and it kind of has this glow, a slight glow to it, like some sort of lava lamp.
It's not super grotesque or anything, but it is just like, it's just off enough where it makes you feel just slightly uneasy, you know?
Joe was very particular that it wasn't too visceral and too kind of real in a gruesome way. So it has to have this kind of larger than life kind of image. It's literally like a Chevy. It's a very organic but beautiful kind of shape you get in different lights.
Red Skull ends up dipping from the situation, leaving the captain and his best friend to die. Rogers and Bucky find a potential exit. Bucky manages to make it across the platform, but Rogers isn't able to join him before it collapses. Rogers is more than willing to sacrifice himself, but Bucky won't let that happen. So, Captain America, he begins to set himself up to make an impossible jump. The base continues to fall apart, and Rogers makes the attempt. Meanwhile, back at base, they have assumed Rogers dead. If you watch the background, however, you can see the other soldiers slowly realize something before the main characters do.
What the hell's going on out there?
Triumphantly, Captain America leads the soldiers back home. Bucky calls for a cheer and the camera pulls out. It's a beautiful final shot. How many kills did we count in Captain America's first MC? What was that? Oh, the movie's not done. Oh, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I actually thought the movie ended here the first time I watched it. Like, that's not me f***ing with you. Like, I actually thought that was the end. Anyway, Rogers is supposed to be honored with the Medal of Valor, but he's a no-show. But hey, we got a Stan Lee cameo. Nah, but Rogers has more important business. He's got to help track down Hydra. Remembering the map he saw earlier, he marks down where they need to head next. And the captain is already putting a crew together for his little crusade. It's some of the prisoners he's rescued. These characters are known as the Howling Commandos, and they consist of Dum Dum Dugan, Gabe Jones, Jim Morita, James Montgomery Falsworth, and Jacques Demier. I think that's how you pronounce that name. But all this celebration stops when Peggy Carter enters the building. She and Rogers have a little moment together, much to the disbelief of poor Bucky Barnes. Their roles have been reversed.
I'm turning into you. This is like a horrible dream.
Don't take it so hard. Maybe she's got a friend.
Shortly afterward, Rogers has a meeting with Stark. But the captain's gotta wait a bit. He's a little busy getting blown up trying to understand this new technology Hydra's been using. While he waits, Rogers has a little chat with a young lady who seems to be a little too thankful for his little mission. And of course, Peggy has to catch them in the act. Rogers then immediately tries to explain himself in the worst way possible.
But what about you and Stark? How do I know you two haven't been fondueing?
Luckily, Stark is here to explain what fondue is, but more importantly, he's got some gear to show him. That includes, of course, some new shield designs, but one immediately catches his eye. The iconic circular shield. It's a shield made out of vibranium, the rarest metal on Earth. It's
completely vibration absorbent.
Yeah, that. Anyway, Cap tries to show off his badass new shield to Agent Carter, but it doesn't go the way he thought it would.
Yes, I think it works.
And now we're introduced to the iconic Captain America suit. Hell yeah! The filmmakers wanted this version of the suit to be something a little more practical. Something like a mix between a superhero and a soldier uniform. This amazing costume is the work of costume designer Anna B. Shepard and Captain America suit developer / visual development supervisor Ryan Mienerding.
The suit's actually made out of mostly nylon. There's some canvas in there, but it's made out of stuff that the military would make straps. We were trying to get more of like a Kevlar weave sort of feel to it, so it would feel like an actual battle suit.
They also wanted to make the shield itself look more realistic. That includes things like battle damage and light reflection. There were even 6 different shields made, like all of them with different sizes.
We have the heavy shields for the shots where I need to block myself or it's going to be a close-up and it's this nice shiny metallic. We have rubber shield when I'm actually knocking someone out with it and I actually got to hit somebody. We've had a couple shields that are magnetic for when I got to slipping on my back.
And sometimes the shield itself was just entirely CGI. Heading off into battle, we're given a badass superhero montage. It's always morally correct to punch a Nazi. We get our first kill in the montage when Captain America does his iconic shield throw for the first time. A shield tossed like this will likely shatter the bones of anyone he throws it at, so I'ma count it. In the middle of the montage, Agent Carter and Colonel Phillips watch a little Captain America footage, and they end up seeing something that probably wasn't meant to be caught on camera. Agent Carter will remember that. Back to the action, we get our next kill when Bucky snipes a Hydra soldier that almost takes out the poor captain. And here, we get 13 soldiers from both Hydra and the US that are killed. Most of it happens in the background, although we get some sick-ass shield bashing, and yeah, they probably died, so I'm gonna put them on the count too. Captain America blows up this tank, and the montage unfortunately comes to an end. Upset about the current crusade led by Captain America, Red Skull vents his frustrations out on Zola, and in the background we can see 2 dead bodies lying next to him. They were most likely shot, but who can tell? And unfortunately, this man came back at the wrong time, but just in time to be added onto the count. Sorry, man. For their next mission, the Howling Commandos assault a train in an attempt to capture Zola and turn the tide of the war. Cap and Bucky make their way inside, where they both walk into a trap. The two are separated. Bucky's got Hydra agents to deal with, whereas Cap's, he's got a big man with big guns. Bucky takes out 3 soldiers here, but he's still got 1 left to deal with. Cap manages to knock out his adversary with a shield bash, and uses the Hydra agent's gun to make his way back to Bucky. Using the power of teamwork, the duo are able to take out the last man and add him onto the count. But suddenly, disaster strikes. Bucky does some shield shadowing of his own before being blasted once more. Cap launches his shield and finally takes this guy out for good, but as he's reaching out to save his best friend, the worst thing possible happens. I love that we hold on this moment with Rogers. You know, it really allows the emotions of the moment to really sink in. Meanwhile, the rest of the Howling Commandos storm the train and capture Zola. Back at base, Zola is interrogated by Colonel Phillips and is provided an ultimatum.
Schmidt will know this is a lie.
It's going to kill you anyway, Doc. Your liability is you or Schmidt. It's just the hand you've been dealt.
Zola tells the Colonel something that just leaves him terrified.
What's his target?
His target is everywhere.
But I also want to know what else did he think Schmidt was planning? Like that was always probably his goal, right? Like I would have clocked that a while ago, but that's just me though. Anyway, Red Skull readies his army for his grand plan of world domination. And for the first time, we're really given a sense of how massive Hydra's army is. Oh my god. But the film steps back from the action for a second to let us sit with Rogers as he remembers Bucky. Agent Carter is here to remind him of who he and Bucky are and how tight their bond was. I personally think this moment really highlights why they work so well together. Captain America is a character that seemingly gets in his own head a lot. Thus, having a love interest that can keep him more grounded in reality helps to complete him as a person. Sometime later, Rogers, Stark, Carter, and the rest of the Howling Commandos join in on planning an attack on the final Hydra base. However, time is limited. Specifically, they have 24 hours before Schmidt will launch his assault. The final base is located 500 feet below the surface in the Alps. What can they do?
It's not like we can just knock on the front door.
Why not? That's exactly what we're gonna do.
Cap zooms down on his motorcycle to the base, pursued by an army of Hydra soldiers. Cap ziplines 2, and I'm gonna add them to the count, why not? 2 more poor bastards are added to the count here. One burned alive and the other crashed. Finally, Cap takes the last 2 out by blowing them up. You can't argue with me on these 2 specifically, not on these 2. Coming face to face with a giant ass tank, Cap charges full speed ahead and blasts it. We counted 12 Hydra soldiers who were killed in this moment, and I'm gonna add these ones to the count because it would make sense for Cap to go a little bit harder on these guys after what just happened. So I'm gonna say he didn't pull his punches in this moment. However, the assault is short-lived when the captain is surrounded by flamethrower wielding soldiers. I wish I knew what these guys were called, but I prefer just calling them flamethrower wielding soldiers. That sounds cooler to me. Here he is taken to see the Red Skull once more, face to face. The Skull only has one question to ask our hero.
So, what made to you so special?
Nothing. I'm just a kid from Brooklyn.
Just before the Skull can put an end to Rogers, the Howling Commandos burst their way into the base. The Skull fires at Cap, but he accidentally shoots a Hydra soldier instead. The other 10 soldiers are blasted by the Howling Commandos as the Red Skull flees the scene. Cap gives chase to the Red Skull as the other soldiers make their way inside. Okay, now this is where things get chaotic. We frantically cut inside and outside the base, and in total, about 56 Hydra and US soldiers are killed in this scene, either by being vaporized or shot or a mixture of the two possibly. Even Red Skull gets his hands dirty with a few kills here. And look, Colonel Phillips gets in on the action too. Cap, who is now finally caught up to the Red Skull, launches his shield at him. The Skull does manage to flee, but luckily the shield holds the door for our hero to follow. But suddenly, from nowhere, a dual flamethrower wielding soldier emerges. How will Cap get out of this one without his mighty shield? Oh, okay. Anyways, the path is opened up just before Red Skull can board his plane. As a few other Hydra agents begin to board, the US soldiers intercept them and add 3 more bodies to our count. The Red Skull, who has the Tesseract, loads up his targets and gets ready to show the world the true power of this secret technological terror. And oh me. Okay, we counted 12 people getting killed here. And when I say we, I want to shout out my sister who did the bulk of the counting for this episode. Without her, I would have had an awful time with this. So I just want to say thank you for your help. I really do appreciate it. Cap gives chase to the plane, but soon realizes it's not enough to catch up. That is, until he's picked up by none other than Agent Carter and Colonel Phillips. Tommy Lee Jones finally pushes the red button, and it gives them enough speed for them to catch up to Red Skull's plane. But we gotta have a little goodbye moment first.
Go get him.
I'm not kissing you.
And so, after failing to seduce Colonel Phillips, Captain America boards Red Skull's plane, as Peggy watches on from a distance. On the plane, Captain America sees the labeled bombs from— wait, what? Now this is a little known fact about this film, something that you're not going to hear from a lot of other sources, but there's actually a deleted scene where we see Red Skull and Zola designing these specific bombs. It's here that we learn that they built each of these for a specific city so that the blast radius would take out as many people as possible. I gaslight people for fun. Some of the Hydra agents that managed to board finally show up, and Cap manages to take 6 of them out, with even some of them getting thrown out of the plane. Oh my god, man. However, one of the agents manages to board the bomb plane jet thing. Cap jumps on to try and stop him before he's joined by another Hydra agent. Trying to shake them off, the Hydra agent accidentally causes his friend to be obliterated by the propellers. Oh my god. That is one of the most brutal deaths, not just in this film, right? But like in the entire MCU as a whole. What a kill, man. It even leaves a trail of blood in the air afterwards. God damn. Cap manages to remove the pilot from his aircraft, and I'm gonna guess that he sent him to his death. You know, just based on what's been going on, you know. He's Captain America is ruthless in this movie. Oh my god. Cap flies his way back onto the Red Skull ship, and here we get our final battle, our final big superhero fight. Now the fight scene here, it is quite stiff, but hey man, I don't know. I kind of like that they're both just so strong and evenly matched that they just revert back to their primitive nature of just like swinging wildly and just hitting each other in any way they can. Like it's really just them shoving each other around and just hitting them with whatever's like lying around. It's entertaining for sure. Anyways, the fight ends when Captain America throws his mighty shield at Red Skull, causing him to knock into the Tesseract holding container thing. Whatever it's called is unimportant. What is important is that it causes the Tesseract to glitch out. The Red Skull picks it up, and the Tesseract opens a portal to space for some reason. Then the Red Skull vaporizes for some reason. Then the Tesseract melts through the plane for some reason. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I have no idea what to say about any of that. Even though I know, like, I know where all of this leads, I have no idea how to talk about that part. I'm still very confused about it all these years later. So we're just going to move on, and I'm going to leave it at that. Cap takes control of the plane and has a terrifying realization. He contacts the people back at the Hydra base who have now just seemingly taken it over completely, and he lets them know about his situation.
This thing's moving too fast and it's heading for New York. I gotta put her in the water.
Cap says his goodbyes to Agent Carter as he begins a nosedive straight down. In their last moments together, they plan a date.
We'll have the band play something slow. I'd hate to step on your...
Steve?
Around the world, the people are celebrating the end of the war, whereas our main characters lament the death of Captain America. Stark, not believing his friend is gone, however, begins a search and rescue mission. However, during his search, he instead finds and recovers the lost Tesseract. Back at base, Agent Carter is given Rogers' file. She opens it and finds a picture of Steve before he got the serum, showing that she liked him for who he was on the inside. How many kills did we count it? No, I'm just with you again. After a cut to black, Steve Rogers awakens from his slumber in a recovery room. But something is off. Something is off.
Where am I really?
I'm afraid I don't understand.
The game. It's from May 1941. I know because I was there.
The nurse calls for backup. Captain Rogers bursts out of the room, and these two guys are still alive somehow. All right, cool. Steve barrels his way outside, only to find he's in modern-day New York City. Suddenly, however, Cap is surrounded before being greeted by none other than Nick Fury.
You've been asleep, Cap, for almost 70 years.
Rogers takes a moment to process this, but there's only one thing on his mind.
You gonna be okay?
Yeah, I had a date.
I love this ending. It feels small and personal, and it just sets up Captain America's character for the series going forward. It sets up his arc wonderfully, and we feel for him. We're left just as much in the dark as he is in this new reality. But what about the post-credits? It's the trailer for the Avengers. That's it. How many kills did we count in Captain America's first MCU outing? Well, let's just get on over to the numbers. Okay. You see, I was gonna have like a big like dance number with a bunch of girls come out, and it'll be like, you know, the Captain America Road Show, War Bond show thing that he was doing. But I don't have the money or the budget or a green screen or anything that would make that possible. So we're just gonna go to the numbers. Just imagine what it would look like in your head. Really, just like close your eyes, like meditate on that for a little bit, and then okay, now open them, and now we're back. Okay, it's numbers time. I also don't have anywhere like an elaborate. Like I said, I don't have a green screen, so we're just gonna do it here. We might do it Let's Play style. That would be fun. I'll put myself in the corner, and it'll be like a slideshow. I don't know how I'm doing this yet. Well, you'll see it in the final product. Product? Product. It's product. That's the word. We counted 175 people who died in this film, with 1 woman and 174 men. That leaves us with a kill on average of every 0.71 seconds. God damn. And just like with Dead Meat's kill counts, we have some awards to give out for some of these kills. First up is the Completed Gauntlet Award, which goes to the coolest kill, which is easily this poor bastard that got chopped up in the propeller blades. It's a brutal kill for PG-13 standards. Nice job, man. The Broken Ultron Bot Award goes to the lamest kill, and that goes to these 2 dead bodies in this scene. If only we'd seen how it happened. And that's it. Captain America: The First Avenger would be the final film released before the Avengers the following year. I'll be looking at that film next, but until then, I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching this. I had a lot of fun making this, but holy shit, this took a long time. Like, dude, this took just way longer than I thought it would actually take. I have no idea how Dead Meat can release one of these videos a week. That blows my mind, and it gives me just so much more respect to them. It just hats off to them, truly. This was insane, and I honestly did have a lot of fun making this. I really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to get started on the Avengers one next. I just want to shout out my sister once again for helping me count the kills in this movie. I mean this when I say it, I would have probably gone insane if I had to. I would have gone insane without her, so just thank you again. I'll try to get the next one out in 2 weeks or so, now that I have a good idea of how these are supposed to roll and how to, make them. But we'll see what happens. I make no promises, okay? But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. It really does mean the world. I'll see you guys in the next one. All right? Long live cinema. I hold up a peace sign. I didn't mean to do that. It's staying in. Long live cinema.